Mavs fans are holding their breath tonight after Luka Doncic limped off the floor with a left calf strain, an injury that unfortunately could cause him to miss significant time in the upcoming playoffs. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about the unique medical side of the world of sports. Just how bad is this injury to Luka Doncic? Well, let's take a look at the play where this happened and talk a little bit about the anatomy and what we can expect with severity. Initially, the announcers were talking about this whole sequence where it looked like he might have bumped knees with somebody as he was driving into the lane, but it was actually kind of after he passed the ball out when he went to push off where he suffered that injury to the calf. Now, here as he gets ready to step backwards, this is, of course, a position that we see players injure their Achilles all the time. But remember, the calf muscle is part of that whole Achilles tendon complex. It's sort of the same unit on the back of the lower leg. So here as Luka goes to plant with that left leg and push off, you see how he develops this stretch in the backside of that left leg, some stretch through that calf muscle. Now, unfortunately, they cut away before we see that slow motion. But if we go back to the play in full speed here again, Luka steps back right there with that left leg. This position is putting excessive stretch on that whole complex between the calf muscle, the gastrocnemius, the Achilles tendon, everything in this posterior leg as he goes to push. And it's right there as he goes to push that he suffers this injury. We can see him kind of limping right away afterwards. A strain is a tear. And basically whenever those muscle fibers of the calf muscle complex get stretched to an excessive level, those muscle fibers actually tear. You get bleeding inside the muscle, and depending on exactly where the tear occurs, that's going to influence the ultimate severity of how much time you will miss. We'll talk about those different recovery times and the anatomy of where these injuries can occur, but first I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video. Today's video is sponsored by Element, an electrolyte drink mix that's perfect for anybody looking to supplement or replenish their essential electrolytes. The human body relies on electrolytes to function. By definition, they have an electrical charge, and that electrical charge is helpful in things like muscle fiber contraction, nerve signal generation, and even basic metabolism. And so when these electrolyte levels become impaired, we can suffer from things like fatigue, muscle cramps, and other side effects that can affect not only your athletic performance, but your general well-being. And one of the biggest ways we can actually lose electrolytes is whenever we sweat. Element is the perfect solution for anybody looking to supplement or replenish their electrolytes. It's got a scientifically backed formula with 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Plus, there's no added artificial ingredients or sweeteners. Element is also the official hydration partner of USA Weightlifting, so you know they have the trust of the highest level athletes. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack if you head to drinklmnt.com/BrianMD. All you have to do is pay $5 for shipping. It's a risk-free way to sample it and see if it's right for you. So head to the link below to try Element and see if it's right for you, and help support this channel while you're at it. Thanks again to Element for sponsoring the video, and let's get back to our learning. Looking at our biodigital anatomy tool here, it's important to understand that when we hear the phrase calf strain, there's actually multiple structures that can be injured. Essentially, the Mavs training staff basically sees where he has tenderness, they see where he has pain, and so that's how they initially label this as a calf strain. But until we do something like an MRI scan or an ultrasound, we really truly don't know exactly where it is and the severity of the injury. But looking at it here, remember that the calf muscle complex is actually made up of 3 different muscles. The biggest one on the outside that we see when we look at the back of the leg is, of course, the gastrocnemius. That's the primary calf muscle that you typically think of. On the outside is the lateral head, and on the inside is the medial head. That gastrocnemius comes down to insert and kind of form the initial portion of the Achilles tendon. But the Achilles tendon is actually contributed by other muscles, including the soleus, which sits deeper behind the gastrocnemius, and then actually a third muscle called the plantaris. So when we hear the ambiguous term calf strain, that really can be anywhere in this entire complex. That can be an injury isolated to the muscle higher up. It can be an injury to more this myotendinous junction. It might be an injury to the soleus deeper. And all of those factors are going to influence just how severe this injury is and what he's looking at for recovery. According to Jeff Stotts from In Street Clothes, the average time lost in the NBA this season for just the nondescript calf strain is 16 days. And so this is something that Luka could certainly be looking at a significant amount of time missed, especially considering the timing of the playoffs. To be honest, there's really nothing about looking at the footage itself that can give us major clues about how bad this could be. There are some different factors that might influence specifically what muscle is involved. So if we look at this here, the exact angle of Luka's left leg, you'll see his knee is not completely straight, right? There's a little bit of a flex still in his knee, and it never gets completely straight. The gastrocnemius actually crosses 2 joints. It actually crosses both the knee joint and the ankle joint. And so the more knee extension you have, the more stretch you have on the gastrocnemius muscle. But in this position, there's going to be just as much force through the soleus, that deeper muscle. So I could see in one sense, if this is localized to the gastrocnemius, we might be talking about a less severe type of thing compared to the soleus, but it's really hard to totally predict. When we look in more detail here at the anatomy, this is an area where ultrasound is actually extremely helpful to help with ultimate return to play time. When we look at the specific area where the muscle kind of anchors into the tendon, we call that area the aponeurosis. And an injury to this aponeurotic area is actually going to be more severe and result in substantially more time lost compared to just your run-of-the-mill injury to the muscle itself. Everybody, of course, remembers what happened with Kevin Durant, right? He was dealing with this calf strain. Who knows how things might have been connected, but then unfortunately ended up having an Achilles tendon rupture. And so this is something the Mavs are, of course, going to take extremely serious, not just thinking about Luka's availability this season, but how things could be affected down the road long term. So one more time looking at the play where this happened, after Luka kind of goes into the lane here and has this collision, really nothing initially that causes the injury. He passes the ball out, and then as he turns and gets ready to plant with that left leg, right there as he plants, that plant causes excessive stretch of that whole unit of the calf muscle complex, the gastrocnemius muscle, the Achilles tendon. That whole complex on the back of his lower leg gets stretched in this position as he pushes off, and that's going to be the moment where we see this strain or this tear occur. The ultimate question with prognosis here is exactly where that strain or tear is and how bad the tear is. But we truly could be looking at something that he might miss 0 games, or he could be out for multiple months. We really don't know until we get more information with the MRI or the ultrasound, but this really could go 2 different ways. That's it for the video, everybody. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.